on SportsCenter at 6. Another night, another fight. Tensions in the NBA have players swinging. How will the NBA respond? Kawhi out indefinitely. When will he return? Lonzo Ball out again. Why the Lakers can't win without him. And the future of the Thunder Big Three. Plus, Tom Brady has injury to his throwing hand. What's the level of concern for the Patriots as the AFC Championship game approaches? Here's Michael Smith and Jemele Hill.
That's right. We're back after a couple days away. Meanwhile, the drama in sports never seems to take a rest. The petty flu seems to be kind of contagious in the NBA lately, but it's not limited to throwing punches or going Andy Dufresne in secret NBA tunnels. Paul Pierce will join us shortly to discuss his controversy involving Isaiah Thomas. But let's start with the Final Four, as in the 4 teams remaining in the NFL playoffs. As we go around the league, we have team reports from all 4 teams in action on Championship Sunday as the practice week started up for the Patriots, Jaguars, Vikings, and Saints. But we begin with the Patriots.
Saints aren't in it, but that's okay.
Oh, I did say the Saints. Gosh, thanks, Mike.
No
Good
problem.
catch. And the big news there is that a little after 3 Eastern, the Patriots tweeted that Tom Brady would not be available to the media because he is with the medical staff. Brady on the injury report. That's interesting. And with that, we welcome in Diana Rossini. So, Diana, what is the latest on Tom Brady and the hand injury that he has?
Well, Jemele, let me take you through the day here in Foxborough. The Patriots practiced around 12:30. You know, the media is allowed to watch about 15 minutes of that practice. And nobody saw or noticed anything. Cameramen caught all their video. They saw Brady out there. Then the press conferences started. Devin McCourty, Matthew Slater, Rob Gronkowski, Bill Belichick, they all went through the routine of taking questions from the media. And then a team official came out and said Tom Brady will not be speaking today because he's been placed on the injury report. He was limited at practice with a right hand injury. So, of course, there was concern there, and then that became the story of the day here. But in terms of the concern inside the locker room, and we had an opportunity to talk to more players about it, it seemed that no one was that concerned because there was not a specific incident where something actually happened, that according to some players. In fact, most just said, it's no big deal.
All right, well, we know the Patriots are known to play a little fast and loose with the injury report, but as you said, there doesn't seem to be a level of concern. So thanks a lot, Diana, for joining us. We appreciate it. All right, now Tom Brady's absolutely dominated the Jags at home in his career, he's going 5-0, completed 76% of his passes, and hasn't thrown a single interception in the 5 meetings. The 14 touchdowns without a pick are his second most at home against a single opponent, trailing only the Steelers.
I'm gathering information on all relationships and things of that nature. That's what this assessment is about. So I'm not ready to state opinions about the nature of any of our relationships, whether I'm assessing it in terms of what transpired or what's going to transpire moving forward.
So I should have checked.
So that was Tuesday. Todd Haley's contract expired at season end, and today his 6th season tenure as Pittsburgh's offensive coordinator came to an end. According to Chris Mortensen, Steelers quarterbacks coach Randy Fitchner is expected to be promoted to OC. Mike Tomlin said in a statement that he made the decision not to renew Haley's contract. Steelers have ranked in the top 3 in offensive yards per game in each of the last 4 seasons, and also have had a top 10 scoring offense in all 4 seasons. The Steelers and Saints are the only teams in the NFL to rank in the top 10 in yards per game and scoring in each of the last 4 seasons. Dan Graziano, Big Ben happy. He said as few changes as possible, so there's some continuity if the QB coach gets the promotion.
There is, and that quarterback's coach, Fichtner, has been there since 2007 when Tomlin got there. He and Mike Tomlin coached together at Arkansas State in the late 90s. So there's a lot of familiarity there with the replacement, assuming that is who it ends up being, which we believe it is. Haley, there's been talk about Haley and Big Ben relationship lately. There's been talk about Haley and Big Ben's relationship at the beginning of their time together. I think they've had a lot of success together. I think this got to the point where it was time to move on. Todd Haley probably will land somewhere else. I'm not sure it's 100% coincidental. The Jets just fired their offensive coordinator. Haley and Todd Bowles have coached together, so it's easy to connect some dots there. But I think the time in Pittsburgh was good for everyone involved, but now it's time to kind of move on.
All right, there's a lot of focus, obviously, on what the offense wasn't doing, and, of course, with Todd Haley and his relationship with Big Ben. Is that the only change we should expect to see, or is this, are there more on the horizon? For the Steelers? Mm-hmm. Well, their veteran wide receivers coach retired, but I think that was expected. He's been coaching 33 years, and I think but I think I was at that game on Sunday, and there was a lot of talk about keeping everything together because they really felt like and still feel like this is a team that's right on the verge of something big. Right. So they'll have to deal with the Le'Veon Bell contract situation. They still may have to deal with an unhappy Martavis Bryant, maybe find a trade for him. But I think the Steelers' intention is to bring back largely the same group that just went 13-3 and try and cash it in this time. All right, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you joining us. All right, the Spurs announced today they are again shutting down Kawhi Leonard, who missed the first 27 games of the season because of an injured right quadricep. Now, the news of the shutdown comes after Leonard was just 9 games into his comeback. The Spurs said Leonard will be out for a, quote, indefinite period dealing with the quad injury because, as Pop put it, the injured quad, quote, hasn't responded the way we wanted it to. Now, the Spurs have the hardest remaining schedule this season, according to our Basketball Power Index, having played the 4th easiest to date. As for other contenders out west, the Rockets are 13th in remaining strength of schedule, while the Warriors have the 2nd easiest. Ramona Shelburne, can the Spurs even afford to factor Kawhi Leonard into this season, into their game plan, into their contention against, of course, the Warriors, given that he hasn't really been there most of this season?
Yeah, I mean, they actually struggle when he's been out there so far because LaMarcus Aldridge's been playing like an all-star this season. I mean, his role in the offense has changed, and so when Kawhi's not there, LaMarcus is the very clear number one. They play the 2nd slowest pace in the NBA, though, and I think the Spurs, if they're being honest with you, would tell you, okay, we can't count on Kawhi right now, but we also can't beat the Warriors without him, and we all saw how well they did when he was in there for the first 3 quarters of that game until he got hurt. And so it's kind of a catch-22, right? You can't beat the Warriors without him, but you may not even get a chance to play the Warriors if you don't have him yet.
Yeah, I like to think that the Spurs can figure out a way to work in arguably the best two-way player in the game. All right, moving on to the now infamous locker room breach. The NBA has been investigating this for the last couple of days. Of course, it occurred in the Rockets-Clippers game. What's taking them so long? Because I figure Lenny Briscoe would have already had this case wrapped up. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is how this usually works: is the NBA takes as long as the team has until their next game. So the Rockets don't play until tomorrow night. So I could see us getting something end of day today, early tomorrow, but they don't have any urgency to get it rolling in here until tomorrow because that's when any potential suspensions would take place. My understanding, though, is the player who probably faces the worst suspension here or the worst punishment or whatever that comes to is going to end up being Trevor Ariza. I know they all went into the locker room, but from what I heard, in terms of where the investigation is right now, it seems like he played the leading role here.
Yeah, Woj reported that he is definitely a primary person of interest. Thanks a lot, Ramona. We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Now, good news for the Rockets, though. James Harden is expected to return from a hamstring strain Thursday night against the Timberwolves, assuming, of course, there are no setbacks between now and game time. Harden, who has missed the past 7 games with the injury, is listed as questionable. Now, during his absence, the Rockets have gone 4-3. Now, Lonzo Ball, that young man right there, he will not play tonight against the Thunder because of a knee injury. Now, whatever opinion you have of Lonzo this season, know that the Lakers are 0-7 when he hasn't played. On the flip side, though, Brandon Ingram does return tonight. He missed Monday's loss to New Orleans with a sprained ankle. Jeff Van Gundy, always available. Thanks for joining us. You're on the call for tonight's game. Now, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski wrote that the Thunder hope a deep playoff run could convince Paul George to re-sign with the team in the offseason. Is a deep playoff run realistic for this Thunder team as they stand right now?
Well, I think it depends on who their matchup is. Right now, they're in the 5th seed. They matched up with Minnesota in the first round. I could see them winning that. If they match up against a banged-up Spurs team, I could see them winning that. As long as they're not matched up against the top 2 seeds, certainly they can win a first round. Now, after that, for them to beat either Houston or Golden State, would be a monumental upset. So I don't know what you think a deep run is, but they can certainly win a first-round series.
Now, you just mentioned how banged up the Spurs were. They, of course, announced today that Kawhi Leonard will be out indefinitely with his quadriceps injury. Now, right now, they're third in the West, despite the fact that Kawhi has only played 9 games this season. Is that success? Is it sustainable, considering that Kawhi has been on the shelf and will be on the shelf for an undetermined amount of time?
Well, I think they're going to win. Whether they can win big, I don't know. Certainly what they've done without Kawhi so far this year has been remarkable. For them not to have one of the top 5-10 players in the game, and for them to have the record they have and the 3rd seed is remarkable. And it's a testament to their depth, to their players' professionalism, to great coaching, and also to their roster construction in that defensively, because they're so big and long, they are still a great, great defensive team. They're going to have to rely on everything to stay in the hunt while Kawhi Leonard mends.
All right, before we let you out of here, allow me to bring up some old stuff for a moment. You, of course, have been in the middle of a skirmish or two in the NBA. Of course, Monday night, there was the infamous locker room breach with the Rockets and Clippers. Last night, you had Aaron Aflalo. He was ejected for taking a missed swing against the Timberwolves. Now, is this just an issue of guys being cranky because we're almost at the All-Star break, or are things kind of unusually contentious at this point in the season?
Well, I don't know. Like last night, that fight, Aflalo swung. I'm not sure why Bjelica was thrown out. All he did was grab him and protect himself. So I'm not really sure, what how these fighting things are sorted out. I'm interested to see what level of suspensions is taken against the locker room guys who went into the Clipper locker room. But listen, we don't have a fighting issue in the NBA. We have a fake fighting issue in the NBA. Everybody wants to fake like they're ready to brawl. What they should do for halftime, like at the next Clipper game, is Ariza and Austin Rivers should be put in a cage match with gloves. That should be the halftime. They should force these guys to fight.
Right, rather than doing the infamous hold me back, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Listen, I was in one of those where Oakley thankfully held me back because I acted like I wanted a piece of morning, and believe me, I'm not that crazy.
Jeff Darlington joins us from Jacksonville. Jeff, what are members of the Jags defense saying about their ability to stop Tom Brady or at least slow him down?
What's up, Mike? Yeah, actually, it's interesting you phrase it like that. I was talking to linebacker Miles Jack in the locker room, and he was basically saying, like, even if we don't necessarily sack him, we need to let him know every single play that we're there, that we were at least close, so we can get him next time. At least try to get in his head as much as you can when it's Tom Brady. And it is interesting when we talk about the Jags defense here, because this is only the 4th time since 1990 in this current playoff format that a number 1 passer has gone up against a number 1 pass defense. So a great matchup here. Calais Campbell, one of the team's leaders, clearly not overlooking this one.
He knows everything you want to do. I mean, he literally can call it out. As soon as you call a play, you line up. I mean, he knows exactly where he wants to go because he knows what you're in. You have to try to mix it up, but honestly, he's seen it all. He's played against this defense, a few times, so he's familiar with it. The biggest thing, for us to be successful is we have to harass him, just make him uncomfortable. He's, obviously he's the best player to ever play this game for a reason. He's incredible with the way his footwork is and keeping his eyes downfield. He feels it. He doesn't really see it. When I study guys, it's like, okay, he's the best.
I found it interesting, actually, Campbell also saying that he spoke to Malik Jackson, who's on this team, and played against Brady in the AFC Championship in 2015 when he played for the Broncos, said he will pick his mind all week to make sure that he knows exactly how they should get in the head of Brady, something that Jackson was capable of doing in 2015. So while we think of this Jags team as being inexperienced, there are some guys here who have been in this situation before. The Jaguars looking forward to this one, hoping that some of that experience will pay off.
All right, Sal Pal, what have you observed in Philly when it comes to Nick Foles' confidence as well as his teammates' confidence in him?
Well, Michael, 4 days ago, there was very little confidence in Nick Foles. Maybe in the locker room, but definitely not outside the locker room. But the guy answered the bell, right? he was accurate with the football. He protected the football. He got a W despite 3 really bad special teams errors. 3 that came in one game that you wouldn't want to have in 1 year. The running back fumbled on the first drive. So the confidence level in Nick Foles is much, much higher going into this particular game. And we talked to Nick Foles about this whole roller coaster ride, emotional roller coaster ride that he has been on and this team has been on. I want you to listen to his answer because it's really interesting.
I mean, it's been a crazy journey. We're blessed to be in this game. It's been a wild ride this season. We've had, so many things go on, so many guys step up, so many injuries. The guys who are injured have done an amazing job of staying around the building and being a huge part of the heartbeat of this team. And that's sort of the DNA here.
When you hear people around town say, come on, man, we can't win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, how do you react to that?
Man, you don't react to it. You just let people on the outside be outsiders. I think they're out there for a reason, because if they were inside of this locker room, then they believe in the same thing that we believe in. And that's a big distraction. If we worry about what went on outside of this locker room, then this team wouldn't be where we are right now.
Are there still doubts? Absolutely there are still doubts. The Eagles are home dogs after being the number 1 seed in the NFC, home field advantage. They got a dome team coming in the Minnesota Vikings, right? And since 2000, dome teams in the championship game are 0-4. No dome team has come on the road and won in a championship game, and still the Vikings are the favorites in this game. Why? Because Carson Wentz is not rolling through that door, right, Michael? It's going to be Nick Foles. That's the difference.
All right, Sal Pal. Speaking of Carson Wentz, as you may have seen, the Sixers hooked my man up with a jersey. Prince Harry looking pretty good. Says he needs to work on his jumper, trusting the process.
All right, CSI locker room breach continues as the NBA is still investigating the Rockets post-game charge into the Clippers locker room following Monday night's game. Per Woj, Trevor Ariza has emerged as a primary person of interest and the potential instigator of the situation, with all of this starting because Blake Griffin and Austin Rivers were being extra in the Clippers' 113-102 win over Houston. Some would say the real root of this is Chris Paul's icy relationship with Austin Rivers. Here's CP3 a little while ago.
It's over. It's in the past. Y'all know. Y'all was in there.
Chris, if you can bear with me, Trevor didn't get specific, but he said there was a lot of misinformation out there, which he concerns him could negatively affect whatever decision they make at the league office. What are your thoughts about misinformation?
Everybody got a job to do, and we moving on. So.
Okay, Paul Pierce, I love you, Truth, but you a little team petty too, so I know you'll give us some insight on this situation. You spent the last 2 seasons in the league with the Clippers alongside Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Based on what you saw as their teammate, are you surprised that this bad blood has spilled over into Monday night, that they've carried it this far?
I'm really not that surprised, but it had nothing to only do with Austin Rivers and Chris Paul. I think when you look at that as a whole, Austin Rivers, he really aggravated a lot of people with his persona. I mean, but at the end of the day, that's just who he is, and you got to kind of accept him for who he is. Not really well-liked around the league, but, he doesn't care about that. And so I can kind of see how this escalated. When I look at the tape, you see Austin jabbing off at Trevor Ariza, and, things escalate, especially in this heated game where there was a lot of, little fouls and little altercations throughout. And so I'm really not surprised how it escalated toward the end.
Now, these NBA scuffles that we've seen this week, is this just a sign guys are just tired and ready for the All-Star break, or are things unusually contentious?
Well, I think it's just, sort of creating small little rivalries. I mean, I think a lot of times, this happens when you don't get a call and things don't go your way. And maybe the ref kind of lose control of the game. And, players take it amongst themselves to say, hey, if the refs aren't going to do anything about it, I will. And that's why you see a lot of these small kind of scuffles that's happening around the league. And, there's something has to be worked out. The players have to develop a better relationship with the refs and vice versa.
Yeah, we also, I don't know if we can call this scuffles, being that it's not a whole lot of punches connecting. It's a lot of hold me back.
This is the new generation fight. This and Twitter wars.
Yeah. All right. Let's ask you about this other big NBA story. The Spurs announced earlier today that the injury-plagued Kawhi Leonard will be out indefinitely as he recovers from a quadriceps injury that sidelined him for nearly 2 months earlier this season. A source told ESPN's Michael C. Wright that Leonard did not suffer a setback in his recovery. He still hasn't recovered to the point where he actually feels 100% despite the team's conservative approach. How big of a blow is this for the Spurs, who have, in fairness, played well without him?
Well, it's a huge blow when you consider that Kawhi was considered a MVP candidate for this ball club. And I'm a little concerned because this is an injury he sat out so many months for, all summer and some of the regular season. Not sure if he had surgery on it, but this is the same thing that's aggravating him, and it makes you wonder, is he eventually going to need surgery? So this could turn into a huge deal.
All right. Now, Paul, let's get to you and your situation. Now, you made it clear that you did not want to share your jersey retirement ceremony with Isaiah Thomas. Your former teammate, Rajon Rondo, he just came off the top rope talking about the whole situation. He said, what has he done? Talking about Isaiah Thomas. He said, that's what we celebrate now, when he told this was about, celebrating, obviously, getting to the East Finals. This is the Boston Celtics. This isn't the Phoenix Suns. Whew. You had a chance to speak to Danny Ainge about all of this conflict. How was that conversation? Give us some insight into how this decision was made.
We had a good conversation. We talked about it. And, those comments by Rondo just goes to show you, we all stick together. I mean, it's nothing against Isaiah. Obviously, what he was able to do for the Boston Celtics was great. But, I think, in a way, Rondo is right. When you look at the Boston Celtics history and the great players that's been through there, hung championships, broke a lot of records, I'm not saying that IT does not deserve. Of course, in the time we are now, a lot of people get their, ceremonial tribute video, and it's only right he'll get it. But, he'll be in the league a little while. He'll have an opportunity, and but this is definitely nothing against Isaiah Thomas on my end.
Now, you did say, though, that you felt like part of the reason he was getting the video tribute is because of guilt, because the fact that they traded him. Are you still standing by that?
Well, I thought he had an opportunity the first time he was there in Cleveland, when they went the first trip and played that first game. He didn't play, but he showed up in the building. He had a chance to get a standing ovation. I thought that was a great opportunity to do a tribute video. Obviously, they postponed it, and it ended up being on the night where my jersey was going to get retired. And I was just like, there was a conflict. And, that's just something that, wasn't done right by the Celtics or Isaiah. Hopefully, they'll come to a resolve, but, just sometimes that's the way things happen.
All right. Thanks a lot, Paul, for joining us.
And you don't want none of me and Rondo in spades either.
Look, we'll be here all day if we bring up how y'all cheat. So I'm not shocked that y'all are sticking together, given how y'all cheat and stick together on the spades table. So see you soon.
All right. Nice talking to you, Mel.
Sunday after Jacksonville shocked the Steelers, Jags corner Jalen Ramsey colorfully called his shot, saying the Jags were going to and winning the Super Bowl. Call him confident, call him cocky, but whatever you do, make sure you call him one of the best corners in the league. Or as New England's Matthew Slater put it, quote, "The good Lord made that guy, and he said, let there be corner." And there he is. I'd be confident if I were him as well. Already a first-team All-Pro in his second season, Jalen Ramsey is never shy about calling it as he sees it. Darren Woodson talked to Ramsey about walking it like he talks it.
This is ESPN with Jalen Ramsey. Scene one, take one. Mark.
Okay, first thing that comes to mind when you see this.
Corny. It was like a corny funny, you know what I'm saying? They created with their celebrations this year. But yeah, corny was the first thing I thought.
Is picked off by Jalen Ramsey.
He's a physical corner who can suffocate any receiver.
Deion Sanders has talked about how great a football player you are. Deion was one of the greatest trash talkers ever to play the game.
I got one thing to say. This is my house.
When I played with him, he would tell the receivers, you're about to meet Houdini because you're going to do a disappearing act. What's some of the things you say?
I try to get a little clever with it every now and then. I sometimes use quotes from people. So every now and then I might use a Deion quote. Or, one of my favorite ones I use is Muhammad Ali. hey, if you dream about catching this ball on me, you better wake up and apologize. Like, I go out there with a little swag. Sometimes I just go out there and I let the receiver know every play, hey, this is going to be a long game for you. Like, you're trash compared to me. I'll call out their route just to let them know, like, hey, look, I'm on my game today, so it's going to be tough on you.
We go right back at it.
Soft. Charmin soft.
Now we've got a fight after the play. It's been getting feisty between Ramsey and A.J. Green, and tempers just exploded at the end of that play.
Jalen Ramsey was in the head of A.J. Green. Oh, my gosh. Completely shutting him down and was chirping at him the whole time.
I want to know what you said to A.J. Green. We know who A.J. Green is. He's a confident, quiet guy. He's never been outside of himself. What did you say to A.J. Green?
I told him he was soft. I just kept telling him, you soft, and then I kept calling out his stats. He was kind of saying a little something back. And once he started saying something back, I'm like, AJ talking all right? I was like, but it's feed into my game. And then he caught one pass on me for like 6 yards. And then after he caught that, I was like, but now you only got 1 for 6. And I just kept saying it over and over and over again. I was like, you got 1 for 6, 1 for 6, 1 for 6. You only got 1 for 6. You soft today, like you weak today. And he just got, he got fed up, and that was it.
First thing that comes to mind when you see this.
Woo! Moss. Something I'm trying not to get happen to me in any game. I ain't trying to get mossed ever in a game.
I don't even like looking at this picture because I've been mossed before and it's not fun, man.
Yeah, man.
One of the greatest to ever play the game.
One of the greatest to ever play the game, easily. Yeah. If I could go back in time, or if he could, be younger right now, I would love that matchup. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Dream for matchups like that.
I'm saying, why shut up when you're shutting everybody down? The Jaguars' pass defense is the best in the NFL this season by practically any measure. As for Sunday, it certainly helps in facing a Tom Brady that despite blitzing at the lowest rate this season at 18%, Jags generated pressure 33% of the time, the second highest rate in the NFL.
All right, we know now the discipline outcome for this Rockets-Clippers skirmish. The NBA is suspending Trevor Ariza and Gerald Green 2 games each for aggressively entering the locker room after this verbal altercation that occurred on the court in the game. There will be no penalties for Chris Paul and James Harden, who also were part of the post-game melee, as this was first reported by our own Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, very interesting to note that Saturday is an ABC game between the Rockets and Warriors. No conspiracy, Wage, but
that sounds like a conspiracy theory. Woj is kind enough to jump on the phone with us as he heads to NBA Countdown, which follows us here on SportsCenter. So, Woj, as Jemele mentioned, no discipline for CP3 and James Harden and Blake Griffin. What went into this disciplinary process? I understand you just talked to Kiki Vandeweghe not long ago.
I did, guys, and talking to Kiki Vandeweghe from the league office, they did interviews with over 20 people involved in this, from players, team officials, security, and came away with an assessment that Chris Paul and James Harden had acted as peacemakers, that their verbiage around, Ariza and Green going into the locker room was about trying to slow them down, get those two out. But the 2-game suspension for Green and Ariza was centered around them aggressively entering the Clipper locker room, looking for a verbal, at the very least, a verbal altercation with Austin Rivers, and essentially the league decided it is, as Vandeweghe said, it's unacceptable. It's a potentially dangerous situation to have a player go right from the court into another team's locker room. There's also no penalties for the Clippers' Blake Griffin. The league did look at his bump or his brush with Mike D'Antoni during the game, and concluded that D'Antoni, that it wasn't intentional. That D'Antoni, certainly the heat of an intensely contested game, and they gave, no penalties beyond Ariza and Gerald Green, who get the 2-game suspension now.
All right, Woj, we appreciate it. Get back on the phone, and I'm sure you guys will dive much deeper into this coming up on NBA Countdown. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I know this is what all you guys predicted back in the day, was a Foles versus Keenum NFC Championship, so good job to all you guys that predicted that.
Courtney Cronin joins us from Minnesota, where it looks practically balmy, at least for this time of year. Courtney, how are the Vikings using Sunday's miracle win to help get them ready for the NFC Championship in Philadelphia?
Hey, Jemele, the Vikings return to practice on Wednesday, fully understanding that the Minneapolis Miracle doesn't put any points on the board in Philadelphia. But while they've moved on from talking about the details of the moment, that doesn't mean that play still doesn't hold significance as an important lesson these players can carry into the NFC Championship. Stephon Diggs' 61-yard walk-off touchdown gave the Vikings a sort of near-death playoff experience. And surviving that is a strong reminder of the fine line between victory and defeat, and how the game isn't over until it's really over.
If you didn't believe before and you didn't have confidence before that, anything can happen if you go out there for 4 quarters and play 60 minutes, that should invigorate it in this team.
I learned from every experience that I'm in, and I definitely learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from, from the emotions I felt to how I, handled it, to how I prepared, and something that I applied this week, and I'm continuing to apply to this next game.
The Vikings' attention to detail in preparation for the Eagles extends to the micro level, all the way down to the blades of grass at Lincoln Financial Field. Today, Mike Zimmer showed his team a video compilation of Falcons receivers having traction issues there last Saturday, most notably the final play of the game, where Julio Jones slipped in the end zone, disrupting his timing with Matt Ryan. Minnesota plays on natural grass in Chicago and in Green Bay, but will be paying particularly close attention to the field conditions pregame, so that the playing surface at the link doesn't become a storyline again on Sunday. Jemele?
All right, the blades of grass. As a writer, I appreciate that detail. That is telling, not showing, for those watching at home. Thank you, Courtney. All right, file this under hashtag he old. Tom Brady has more playoff experience than the other 3 remaining quarterbacks in this postseason, but it may surprise you also that he's thrown for over 8,000 more yards than the 3 of them combined and has 61 more playoff touchdown passes than Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, and Nick Foles. And joining us now, looking past their anniversary sharp, Damian Woody. Now today, Tom Brady was listed as a limited participant with a right hand injury on the Patriots injury report. Is this just the Patriots being the Patriots, or is there any level of concern here?
No, I think this is just Patriots being the Patriots. We've seen this. How many times have we seen this where Tom, mysteriously comes on the injury report, and people are like, oh, is something wrong with Tom? And then he goes out there and lights people up for 4 touchdowns or whatever. So I wouldn't make too much of this. I think, if anything, we got to wait till game action to see if this is something that's really affecting him.
Yeah, now, as it is, as I mentioned, the stats about how he's not only more older, but clearly more accomplished than the rest of the quarterbacks in the field. So taking Brady out of this, right, which quarterback are you most confident in on Sunday?
Oh, Case Keenum. Mm-hmm. Case Keenum right now has been like the dark horse MVP. He really has. I mean, he's only thrown 7 interceptions. So he's playing the type of ball that Mike Zimmer wants, a defensive-minded coach wants him to play. And obviously, he's going over and beyond that because he's a playmaker at the quarterback position, not only with his arms, but with his legs. And they're primed to get that Super Bowl in Minneapolis. So he's a real good feel good story for the Minnesota Vikings.
You can see Case Keenum getting one of these, right?
It's possible. He's balling. He's balling at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Oh.
You like that?
Okay.
You like that?
Is it official though?
You like that?
I mean,
you're not the only one with championship DNA on this.
Mine's pretty official though. Only thing I got to clean mine up a little bit though. It's a little dusty.
You're not the only 2-time champion.
Oh, you a 2-time champion?
I'm just saying.
Were you a quarterback?
I know what it's like to build a championship team.
Yours kind of.
It's like to build a championship.
Yours blinging harder than mine.
A little bit.
Yeah. Did you just get it
Same
clean?
Thing.
Like,
would you like to hold it and see what it's like to win a championship?
So she's not a champion.
This is in other ways, in other arenas.
I can't relate.
Yeah. Did you ask him what he was a championship for? What that championship is for?
High school? Is it? I mean,
that's kind.
That would actually be better. Fantasy, 2-time champion.
2-time Worldly.
Same thing.
Yeah, he's a dog in that fancy room. I give him that.
Yep. Way to be great at imaginary football. Appreciate that. All right, one only.
Is it a countdown if you only got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the best one.
Right.
So we go with quality over quantity. So Argentinian side Club Sportivo put their goalkeepers through, say, a very rigorous
you
training
could dodge
session.
a wrench, you could dodge a ball type thing?
See, you get it, right? Not sure why one needs to be upside down, but hey, whatever gets them going. I can't do any of that, so I'm not here to judge.
Like somebody on this set? Tonight at 1 a.m. Eastern with Stan and Neil. They highlight Warriors, Bulls, and Nova Georgetown. Plus, in case you missed it, you'll hear from Blake Bortles, Nick Foles and Case Keenum, and more on Tom Brady's hand injury that limited him in practice today. Before we call it a day, tell the people who had a good day,
To all the people who don't know, or at least act like they don't know, Colin Kaepernick, remember he initially pledged $1 million to various social justice causes where he's down to the final 100,000, and he's got a very unique idea. He's going to make it a 10-day initiative in which he'll donate $10,000 to an organization that a celebrity will match. Kevin Durant.
I was just about to say.
He is one who has stepped up to the cause, so congratulations to Colin for getting that $1 million.
Speaking of donations, salute to Vikings fans for continuing the best trend in sports. They've donated $70,000 and counting to Saints punter Thomas Morstead's foundation in recognition of him kicking through torn rib cartilage Sunday and returning to the field for the Vikings to take a knee after that miracle touchdown. Morstead has given the money to the Children's Minnesota Child Life Program and says if donations reach $100,000, he'll go back to Minneapolis Super Bowl week for a check presentation. This after Steelers fans donated to Blake Bortles Foundation for knocking out the Steelers, Bills fans to care Andy Dalton, and fantasy fans for Todd Gurley. That's it for the 6 countdowns next, leading you into Thunder Lakers at 8:50.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick. Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.